Hi, Asa. I've got one of your quizzes open here. I'm going to work through some of the problems so you can see what you missed or why, maybe get some clarification. You've got 3 attempts that you did, and so I'm going to be looking at each one of them quickly here. So for question 1, it asked for the difference of the fractions and then says use the number line and equivalent fractions to help find the answer. So I probably won't use the number line, maybe just a little to help draw some arrows. But a couple of things here. First, anytime you're adding or subtracting fractions, we do need a common denominator. And the other side of it is then with subtraction is that oftentimes we subtract, we change the problem to addition, and then we change the sign of the number behind it. It's called adding the opposite. It's really the rule for subtraction, particularly when we're subtracting any type of rational number that could involve, the expression could involve positives or negatives. So when I look at this example, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the problem to adding the opposite. So if I change the sign from subtraction to addition, then I also have to change the sign of the number behind it. So now the problem is negative 2 1/2 plus 1 3/4. I teach my students that we need to change mixed numbers to improper fractions. So in order to change 2 1/2 to an improper fraction, we're going to multiply 2 times 2, and then we're going to add 1. So that's 5 over 2. Remember, that fraction is negative. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7, and we have 7/4. So negative 5/2 plus 7/4. We need a common denominator. That's going to be 4. Both 2 and 4 evenly divide into 4. And so if I multiply the bottom by 2 to get 4, I also have to multiply the top by 2. So that's negative 10/4 plus 7/4. Now we're ready to actually do the addition. When we're adding two numbers with opposite signs, the 10 and the 7 have opposite signs, we actually have to subtract in our head to get the right digit. So 10 minus 7 is 3. And then our answer takes the sign of the bigger number. 10 is bigger than 7. 10 is negative, so our answer is 3. Excuse me. Our answer is negative. We get negative 3/4. Carlos biked 139/8 of a miles on Saturday and 135/7 miles on Sunday. On which day did he ride further? And by how much? So when we want to know which day did he ride further, we need to know which one is bigger. And you can really do this just through division with a calculator. You can take 139 and divide that by 8, and that is 17.375. We can take 135 and divide that by 7, and that is 19.285. I'm not really rounding on that one. It's a much longer decimal. It's a repeating decimal, actually. And then it asks which day did he ride further? He rode further on Sunday, so that takes off that one and that one. And then it wants to know by how much further did he ride? So that's going to be a subtraction. We're going to take 135/7 and we're going to subtract 139/8. And this one's going to get kind of ugly since we need a common denominator, and the first number that both 7 and 8 go into are 56. So something over 56 minus something over 56. Really, we could also compare. We'll be able to compare here in just a minute when we get common denominators. So I'm going to take 135 and I'm going to multiply that by 8 because that's what I did to the bottom to get 56. And over here, I'm going to multiply top and the bottom by 7. So 139 times 7 is 973. I am using a calculator for this. 1080 minus 973 is 107 over 56. And again, we could do the subtraction. We could have changed that to addition and then, change the sign of the number behind it. When the first number is bigger and you're subtracting, it's really just like the subtraction you've been doing your whole life. So we have 107/56. Well, 56 only goes into 107 one time. And then when we do 107 minus 56, that leaves us with 56 left. So there's that answer there. Again, you could have compared both of those fractions in this step. If I go back and erase that negative sign and make this back to subtraction, you can see here that 10 80 or 1,080.56 is bigger than 973.56. So that's how we could tell that he rode further on Sunday than he did on Saturday. I just kind of did a real quick division problem to see which number was bigger. Okay, let's move on. The science experiment calls for mixing 3 2/3 cups of distilled water with 1 3/4 cups of vinegar and 2/3 cups of liquid detergent. How much liquid in all in cups is needed? So we're going to have to add all of these fractions together. We're going to need a common denominator. We're also going to change this mixed number to an improper fraction. So let's do that first. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. So we have 11/3 plus 1 times 4 is 4, and 4 plus 3 is 7. 7/4 plus 2/3. The common denominator between 3 and 4 is 12, so we're going to change all of these to 12ths. And I multiply the bottom and top by 4. Here I'm going to multiply the bottom and the top by 3, and again by 4. So across the top, we are just adding 44 plus 21 plus 8, and that gives us 73/12. And answers here are back in mixed numbers. So 12 goes into 73 6 times. 6 times 12 is 72, so that's going to leave 1/12 left over. Question 10, let me move this thing out of the way, 9/20. Try to remember that number. Okay, it says Patel squeezed oranges so his family could have freshly squeezed juice for breakfast. It gives cups from the first orange, cups from the second orange, third, fourth, fifth. Estimates he needs 3 cups of orange juice for his family. About how much more orange juice does he need to reach his estimate? Okay, so I'm just going to kind of jot some things down. I'm not real sure where I'm going to go with this yet. I know I could add them all up. And 1/5 a cup, and then 9/20 of a cup, and 5/11 from a cup, and 7/15 of a cup. He estimates that he needs 3 cups. So this is an estimation. I'm just going to kind of see. I don't know if I want to get a common denominator and actually add all this up. We're just estimating. So I guess if we're going to estimate, I would maybe do something like this. So this is really close to a half. I just want to see how close I get here. This one's really close to a half. This one's really close to a half. This is pretty close to a whole. So let's see, that's 1, 2 1/2. Yeah, and I guess maybe we could say that this one just doesn't, it's not a lot, so we're just not really counting that. I don't know. So we've got 1 plus 2 1/2. We have 2 1/2 cups if we estimate. Again, 7/15. 7 is about half of 15. 5 is about half of 11. 9 is about half of 20. 13 is really close to 15, so we're close to 1 there. And it's this word estimate here. So if he needs 3 and he has about 2 1/2, then we would need about another half of a cup. So that was your first attempt. If we look at the second attempt, you missed a couple of questions here. You missed 4 questions here. So let's start with question 3. Oh, same question. Oh, we already know how to do that one. So we were just estimating. Again, I'm kind of ignoring that 1/5, I guess, just because it's not very much. And when they're doing estimating, they're probably trying to get you to either round something that's really close to 1 to 1. Anything close to a half, you're rounding to a half. And then anything that's really small or not a very big fraction, we're probably just kind of ignoring, which is what I did with that 1/5. And we already did this question. Remember, we got a common denominator. We subtracted the 2 numbers, found out he did bike further on Sunday to find the difference. Okay, a hike starts at an elevation of 13 4/5 feet below sea level and ends at an elevation that is 1,542 feet higher. How high is the hiker in feet above sea level? Excuse me, at the end of the hike. So because we are below sea level to start, we're going to use a negative number for that first, we're going to use a negative sign on that first fraction. So negative 13 4/5 feet below sea level, and then ends at an elevation that is 1,542 feet higher than that. You know, we could change that mixed number to an improper fraction, try to get a common denominator, and then add the fractions together, or we're going to use just a little bit of mental math instead, since it's 13 4/5 with a whole number. So this is negative. This actually means it's a subtraction problem when we're trying to add them together, because the first number is negative and the second number is positive. So the first thing I'm going to do is take 1542 and subtract 13 away from it. And that is going to give me 1,529. But now I also need to take away the 4/5. So if I take 4/5 away from 1,529, we're going to subtract 4/5. That's going to leave me with 1,528 1/5. So you can see that there. That just, again, worked really well because that second number was a whole number. So you have to think about it like this. Here's ground level. So this is 0. That's sea level. And here is, down here is our negative 13 4/5. And then it says that the hike ends 1,542 feet above where it started, basically. So not above sea level. So when you see from the picture here, we're actually trying to calculate that distance. How far are we now above sea level? Alexia ran 3 laps around her neighborhood. Each lap is 1 3/8 miles. What's the best estimate of the number of miles that Alexia ran? So what you're doing here is you're taking 1 3/8, whoops, and we're multiplying that by 3. You have to do that 3 times. And because it's an estimate, so 3 times 1, that's going to be 3. But then we also have this 3/8, and 3/8 is really close to a half. It's almost 1/2. So if you have 3 1/2s, that's 1 1/2 more. So 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1, plus the third 1/2 would be 1 1/2. So it's basically 3 plus 1 1/2, which you can see is 4 1/2. Again, these are just estimating. From what I shared earlier, that 3/8, again, we're either rounding to 1, we're rounding to a half, or we're considering a fraction so small that it's negligent or doesn't matter. So this 3/8 here is just really close to 1/2. Okay, let's take a look at this third attempt. I think some of these questions might have repeated as well. Yep, okay, there's the hike question we did. Here's another estimation. What's the best estimate for the value of the expression? So I start thinking about what are these numbers really close to. So 34 isn't divisible by 8, but 32 is divisible by 8, and that's 4. So we have about 4. 3 doesn't go into 16. It goes into 15, and it also goes into 18. We're a little closer to 15. So that would be, let's see, if we subtract 5. Let's see how close I can get to this. So that would actually be 4. Maybe I need to change these to mixed numbers so that I can work with them a little more easily, because now I'm checking the answer and I can see the answer is has a half in it, and I wasn't going to do that. I was going to round everything to the nearest whole. So first, this is 4 2/8 minus, let's see, that's 5 1/3. And 9 goes into 9 once. That's 5/9 left over. 1 5/9. Okay, so let's see here. If that's about 4 1/2 minus 5, that's a negative half. That one might be going a little bit higher. Yeah, these are tough. So these two are definitely out. This is way too big. So I'm just trying to see, like, maybe where do we get the difference between the two? 4 minus 5 is -1. Oh, there we go. Okay, so because That must be how they do it. Oops, I just dropped my pen. Okay, so 2/8 is only a quarter. It's not close enough to a half, so they must talk in the lesson about just making these two fractions kind of negligent. So now it's 4 minus 5 minus, this is just over a half, minus 1 1/2. So 4 minus 5 is -1. -1 minus another 1 1/2 is -2 1/2. So that must be how they kind of come to that conclusion. Again, it's the best estimate. Is saying -3 totally wrong? I guess they just think that it's too far, too much of an estimation and not close enough. Here we have a backpack. Eliza's backpack weighs 18 7/8 pounds with her math book in it. Without her math book, her backpack weighs 4 7/9 pounds. How much does her math book weigh? So this is subtraction. All right, we're going to take the total weight of the backpack and the book, and we're going to subtract out the weight of her backpack without the book. With fractions here, I'm actually going to work, let's see, do I have to borrow 7/8 and 7/9? I don't have to borrow. And these are pretty big numbers to be changing them to improper, so I'm going to actually work two different problems. I'm going to take 18 and subtract 14, and then I'm going to take 7/8 and subtract 7/9, because 7/8 is bigger than 7/9. Okay, so 18 minus 14 is 4. That works well. Here we need a common denominator of 72. So that's going to multiply by 8, give us 56. This is going to multiply by 7, or 9, excuse me. Make that a 9. And give us 63. So 63 minus 56 is 770 seconds. And then we got to combine that back with the 4. So 4 and 770 seconds, pounds. We already worked out 9 in one of your earlier quizzes, and we already worked out 10. So hopefully that helps. Basically, again, with fractions, you've got to make sure we're getting a common denominator. Let me just kind of show you this number line, because I don't think I pointed that out earlier. So we're at we go -2 1/2. So we're going all the way, what on earth? There we go, -2 1/2. And then remember with subtraction, we add the opposite. So that means we're going back 1 3/4 back to the right, because it's now a positive. Negative numbers go left, positive numbers go right. And oh my goodness, let me see, what is this going by, quarters? Yeah. Okay, there's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, there's the whole. And then 1, 2, 3. We end up right there at -3/4. It's really interesting, that number line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you another attempt on the quiz as well. Hopefully this is helpful. If you need other resources, let me know. I actually have some other videos that are just kind of me working through addition and subtraction of fractions. Take care and happy Thanksgiving.